But I've known Troy for 20 years at least. We went online. Our companies went online at around the same time. We went online December of 98. And Troy, I think you were in like 97, or early 98. But I don't even know how we met exactly. I don't even remember how it happened. But we have known each other all the time. And Troy comes to the book festival from time to time. But we've done collaborations and projects. We've done all kinds of things. Troy is he's one of those people, he's committed to African American literature. A lot of people just play around, they're just in it for a little while for money to see if they can have some kind of personal gain. Troy is making money too, but his heart is in the game, because
Yes.
you have to be committed to do the stuff that he's been able to do. So anyway, I'm going to let Troy talk about himself, but I just wanted everybody to know this guy is solid, solid, solid.
He was an influencer before the name influencer became popular.
He sure was. He sure was. So, Troy, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. I'm so glad you could come on.
It's been my pleasure. It's my pleasure, and I'm just happy that you all are willing to share your platform with me. Yeah, we go way back when. I remember. I mean, you remember the days when what we were doing was unique. I mean, I read about you in news and magazines, you and Willie, and what you all were doing with Kush City. And yeah, I started my website in 1997, and it really was an experiment. I was just trying to figure out how to make money on the web. I was actually building websites for other people. Now, I mean, in the mid 90s, like 95, 96, that's what I was doing as a sideline business.
Okay.
And so one day I decided, I had a client who just wasn't making any money with her website that I built for her. She liked it, but she wasn't making any money. So I said, let me build a website, see if I could figure out how to make money, and then I could better advise my clients. And I decided to do books. I chose books. Barnes & Noble at the time had, an affiliate program where if you sold books, you can get they would pay you a commission on the referrals to their website. And, so I sat down to create the website in October. I sold my first book in December. And, it took me just a few weeks to discover something brand new. My eyes were, just wide open, and in terms of discovering authors, ideas, concepts, just literature in general. It just was, but when I started the website, I had 2 graduate degrees. It wasn't as if I was illiterate. It's just, I was being exposed to things that I just didn't know existed. So in 98, I launched AALBC on its own domain, and I stopped building websites for other people, and that was my primary focus. And in 2008, it became my livelihood. It became my primary or sole source of income. And I've been doing it for 12 years. It's been a struggle almost every single year, but it's a struggle that, I'm up for every single day. I mean, there's never a boring day. It's always a challenge. But as you mentioned, none of us do what we do because we're trying to become, rich and famous. We do it because we're mission driven. We believe in what we're doing. We believe we're contributing. And I think that we are contributing in a meaningful way to our culture. We're helping others discover and learn our stories. So we are providing platforms to do that. And again, it's been my livelihood for almost, over 12 years now. And, I'm going to do this until, I can't envision doing anything else. So this is what fuels me and motivates me. Selling books, spreading our culture, helping authors reach readers who will enjoy their books, and enjoying it when some reader comes back to me and says, hey, that book you turned me on to, I really liked it.
Now, how did
That's an awesome
you,
feeling.
it is. How did you decide to start doing all the repository work that you do, where you have African American author bios, you have bookstore, you have all kind of lists on your website, but that African American author bio section, how many authors do you have on there now? I know
It's
it's
over four.
thousands.
Yeah, so it's over 4,000. When I, one of the things that has allowed me to grow over the years is, one, support of people like you all. I mean, without your type of support, what I do would be completely thankless and impossible. So readers who come to the site and buy things, and authors who support the site with their business, it allows me to grow. My ability to grow, however, is also due to hard work. I bust my hump.
Tell me about
It's just
yeah,
you
hey.
can't do this type of thing. So,
Right.
I mean, it's 8:30 now. We are all still working effectively, and this is my second Zoom call for the day, and I'm busy.
You're
You're
just
right.
so popular. You're just so popular.
Well,
We
COVID
have
has
a
put us
question.
all on Zoom.
People are
Yeah,
asking what your website is. I think they want to go visit you right now.
yeah. The website is AALBC.com.
And that
It stands for African American Literature Book Club. AALBC.com.
You actually have I don't know, hopefully I'm not jumping ahead, but I know you also have an awards program that's associated with AALBC. Is that correct?
No, I don't, but there are
Oh,
some
okay.
organizations that have a similar name.
That's what it is. Somebody with a
Yeah,
similar name.
yeah,
Okay.
it is. It's a similar name.
there's a group who's worth mentioning because they actually gave me a Literary Activist of the Year award a couple of years ago.
Well deserved.
Thank you. And the group is called the African American On the Move Book Club. I know it's the same acronym as mine, except for one letter is
Isn't
one
it
letter
an M
off.
in there somewhere?
It's a
That's what it is.
MBC.
Yeah.
AALBC.
And they do the
No,
African American. They have something coming up that's virtual.
yeah, I haven't caught up with all the virtual activity, but they host a annual awards ceremony celebration. Actually, it spans several days. This takes place in Atlanta.
Right.
But you might also be thinking about another group out of New York who have an award ceremony. And it's important to mention these award ceremonies because there are not too many that are celebrating the type of things that we do.
Right.
And the one in New York is the African American Literary Award Show. And
I think that's the one I was thinking of.
Okay. Yeah. So they have an annual event. And again, the pandemic has wrecked, a full year's worth of events, but they also celebrate, Black authors in much the same way that Gwen does every year with the National Black Book Festival. She and Yvette has had, Walter Mosley and Eric Jerome Dickey, really great authors. The African American Literary Award Show was the first to recognize someone like a Jerry Craft, for example, who recently has become a star, but Yvette was celebrating him years ago before anyone knew who he was. And so what you're doing, what those ladies do, Tamika Newhouse out of Atlanta, is so critically important. Yes. And you did ask a question, and I don't remember it now because I know I didn't answer it. What was you asked me? How did I get into books? Was it, or I'm not sure. But at any rate, I'm glad I did get a chance to mention both of those award ceremonies because they are important and they're unique. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of those.
Right. Well, now I asked about the repository.
Oh, the list. I mean, so when I am always looking for other people who are doing what I'm doing. I mean, and that's become a lot more difficult in recent years because unfortunately there are fewer of us doing what we do. And that's a problem. I can talk all day about how that came to be and why it's a problem, but it is. And in fact, Gwen, you probably know because we connected in that way.
Mhm.
I would reach out to booksellers every year and say, all right, let's figure out a way we can collaborate on some way. And you and I, had a collaborative advertising platform for probably the better part of
Yes,
10 years,
yes, yes.
along with a few other platforms who are no longer with us. So that kind of fell apart. But I would always look for other Black-owned websites. And I've maintained a list of them, particularly the most serious ones, for years. And I've seen many of these sites I aspire to replicate or become like because they were really good, but a lot of them are no longer here. Um, so I continue to maintain a list of Black book sites solely to help elevate and promote them because
Mhm.
as big as AALBC is, it can't be, I can't cover everyone. I can't review every book. You know,
Right.
we need more AALBCs. So I also maintain a list of Black physical bookstores. Gwen's store, Cuss City, was one of the first on my list. And
When we had the store, when we had a
yeah,
brick and mortar. Mhm.
yeah, and I remember I got it. There's still a
Mhm.
picture somewhere on my
Everybody
site
remembers.
of that big sign that was on the street, and you could see Cuss City. And because it's important, people will say to me, "Well, aren't you promoting your competitors?" I said, "No, I'm helping to uplift the entire Black book ecosystem."
And it's
And
all about working together.
It is.
we have to
Yes.
We
because
do.
we will fail. We none of us can do this alone. And
No.
so I maintain a list of Black-owned bookstores, and in fact, that bookstore list went viral back in late May, early June. That list was copied, rehashed, remixed, shared all over the internet, sometimes attributed, sometimes not. But I've maintained that list for over 20 years, and it was good to see it shared. I didn't lament the fact that it was being shared. In fact,
It helped you.
the extra visitors to the site generated quite a bit of ad revenue. But the 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 list was shared, and that was the purpose of it, because these stores need to be supported. And
Right.
fortunately, many of them had actually record amount of sales, including ALBC had a record amount of sales in June and in July, and some of my sales have gotten closer back to normal, but a lot of these stores that were facing the pandemic posed an existential
Extinction.
threat.
Right.
They were
Yeah,
Right.
literally
extinction.
about to go out of business,
Hmm.
and some were infused with a tremendous amount of capital through sales. Some, unfortunately, couldn't scale to meet the demand, but net, the black booksellers benefited. And I know for certain that list that I post online and will continue to maintain long after the surge in interest in our stores has waned. I will continue to maintain that list, and I update it all the time. I just added a store that I wasn't aware of yesterday. Same thing
Okay.
with black newspapers, Black magazines, the top Black websites. If you
Yes.
talk to your Google assistant and ask them what are the top Black websites, they will reference my list. Um,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Hmm.
Now, there's some other things that you have on your site too. I mean, I've gone to, when I was actively promoting authors, I used to go to your site, one of the main sites I would go to when I was looking for book clubs, or if I wanted to post information about book events. Um, your site was basically that main go-to for everything that had to do with books.
sure, yeah. Book clubs are a big deal. So when I say we, it's really just me. I'm the only one
I
who,
say we too. Don't feel
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
but no, people think it's big.
uh,
They think you got a whole team of people because you have a big idea, and people. people assume that there's a whole team of people. And I'll just interject just a small
To my
aside
advantage, and other times
about,
it's not. You
yeah,
know, so,
about our situation with Kush City.
uh,
Some, when we first started, we always wanted to uh, be the largest retailer online. That was always our goal. And we even had a tagline for that.
I
Um,
remember.
and people used to assume that the company was in New York or DC or Atlanta, and my husband and I just worked for Kush City. They didn't realize we were Kush City.
Yeah, yeah.
But we just let them think that. In fact, people that I knew locally in Houston that were in our book club that would
Right,
come to
right.
our store for the book club meeting for years thought we were employees of somebody who was in New York or
Some big
whatever.
corporation,
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
conglomerate.
Sure.
Yeah, I told them, and they were like, "What?" So if you have a big idea, you can make something look big. And I say, if you're not gonna make it look big, to me, why even do it? So that's,
Sure,
that's
sure.
my philosophy. But people would assume because you do so much and you have for years, they assume that it's a lot of people, but it's just commitment is what it is,
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
and
mean,
expertise,
yeah, yeah.
because you
And
have to have
yeah, learning on
expertise.
the fly, learning on the fly.
Mhm.
When I started building websites for others, I learned as I was building a website. You know, a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, I converted the website to become database driven, which has allowed me to do amazing things. I mean, if you can imagine a site being just Word documents, you know, like a lot of different Word documents, and you have links between them. And every time you wanted to change something, you'd have to go to that document and change it. And that's the way the site existed for, I don't know, 18 years. And it was impossible to scale that. It's impossible to grow that.
Mhm.
And so up until about 2017, 2018, and I should know the exact year, but I converted the site from a bunch of static pages, HTML documents, and I migrated all of that stuff to a custom designed database. And now, so when I did that, I had just under 900 authors on the website. So it took me roughly 18 years to get to 900 authors. And then it took me
Okay.
another 3 years to tack on another 3,200. And
Okay.
the the books on the site, it used to be the books were just little icons and descriptions underneath the author's page. But now the books are really robust um, records in multiple database tables. And what does that mean in terms of people who visit the site? It means that when I track which book clubs are reading a book, so if Folk Tales out of Austin or Go On Girl, a national book club, are reading a book, I can tag that book as being read by those clubs. So I have each book, you know, every book club that's reading that book that I'm tracking reading lists for, it will say that. And then I can go and look at all the books that that book club is reading. Similarly, I can look at all of the awards that a book has won. So I track all of the Black winners of Ezra Jack Keats award-winning books, or I track all of the Coretta Scott King award-winning books. I track all of the Black Pulitzer Prize winners, all of the Black Nobel laureates. So I have all of this information about award-winning books that I can aggregate, and you know, one of the pages I have is a page of the most critically acclaimed books. So it looks at books that have won awards and orders them by year on different pages. So you can select the year and see the most critically acclaimed books for that year.
That's
Now,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, bestsellers list, I've been publishing the bestsellers list for over 20 years. And I'm over here now applying these little stickers to books that are AALBC bestsellers. And again, it's a list that's been in publication for over 20 years. I'm not aware of another list that focuses on Black books. And one of the challenges I have is helping readers, authors, publishers appreciate why that's important. And, again, if we are always looking, and when I say we, I say many of us, not all of us, certainly not anyone on this call, but a lot of us are looking toward other people to determine for us what are important books.
Exactly.
And if we allow them to do that, we're not going to be served as well as we should or could.
And we could be missing out on some great books that way.
Yeah. So, I would like to see us be able to, say, well, this is an important book. This is a book that should be read, and it should get the same attention as a book that, maybe made the, New York Times bestsellers list. Because frankly, a lot of the books that I sell, a lot of my best-selling books are never going to see the New York Times bestsellers list, but I'm selling a boatload of them. I just got a stack of, where did I put them? Hang on. Where are these books? I don't want to go off screen.
Oh, he's gone.
But I just got a, where could I put them? Hang on. Can't lose these books. Hang on. It's only because it's and I didn't want to show that I was wearing shorts. I'm glad I had something on my bottom. But at any rate, this book, for example, by Dr. Chancellor Williams, this is a perennial.
It's been around a long time.
It's been around a long time. Mm-hmm. And, this published by Third World Press, mm-hmm. one of the country's renowned Black-owned publishing companies. But it talks about how, and the name describes it, the destruction of Black civilization. It really gets into the history of how our history has effectively been erased. And this book really helps restore that. So this is a book that I wasn't aware of before I started the website, but I sell a ton of these books, and it is an AALBC best-selling book. And if you rely on, the New York Times, you'll never discover this book. So they focus on a small subset of books, and a lot of the books appear on the bestsellers list for weeks on end. And if you look at AALBC's bestsellers list, they're going to be books that, some of them, are on the New York Times, but others that have incredible penetration in the Black community, many people haven't heard of. Mm-hmm. So going back to the Black-owned bookstores, I promote them pretty aggressively, actually, because there's probably nothing better than a good bookstore that has these types of books. I was in Marcus Books, and
Marcus has been around a long time.
They've been around a long time, and they're not selling coffee and teas and little notepad, like little kitsch. They sell books. There's tables of books, and they're whoever's behind the counter can explain what they're selling and describe it. And I go in there and buy books. I've only been to the store once in my life, but I was thoroughly impressed. And there are a number of stores like that across the country.
Mm-hmm, that have been around.
In New Orleans, we have Community Book Center.
Oh, in New Orleans,
New
right?
Orleans, yes.
Yeah, Vera. So there are bookstores like that all over the country, and we need to let people know about them. Now, where AALBC comes in is, most of us, when I do an event, I did an event in Austin, the Austin African American Book Festival. Gwen, you probably know it, right?
Yeah, I've been to it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like I do with many events I do, show of hands, who lives near a Black-owned bookstore? No one hands goes up. I live in Harlem, purportedly the Black Mecca of the world, and there are no Black-owned bookstores in Harlem.
Really?
No, none.
There used to be.
Well, we don't have any in Houston.
There used to be a lot of, yeah.
We don't because we closed our bookstore. The Shrine of the Black Madonna closed before we did. There was one that was 50% owned that opened about 3 years ago, but COVID-19 killed it. They closed in June permanently because they just couldn't survive it. It was a Black woman and another lady that owned it. So we got 4 minutes left, Troy, because I can really spend 2 hours with just you
Yeah.
on one time, and
Okay. I would
But
like to do one thing before. I said there were no stores in Harlem, but there is
okay,
a Black-owned bookstore in Manhattan, and it's called the Sisters Uptown, and
okay,
they Conscious Sister, that group of folks that run that bookstore, and it's worth checking out. They're in Washington Heights. But go ahead,
okay.
I'm sorry.
But
Just
Harlem
real
should have a
quick, I know
black
we have a
bookstore.
couple minutes left. I just
Okay.
wanted to read you some of the comments that you got.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, Tish Booker says Zora and Langston would be so sad, referring to all these bookstores that have closed.
Yeah, yeah.
And Teresa Russell said that she's had that book since it first came out, 125th Street.
Oh,
I believe she was talking about the book you held up a little earlier.
yeah.
Yeah.
They don't have those anymore. There are really no street vendors on 125th Street anymore.
Right. I remember selling some of my books to a street vendor on 125th Street.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that what that song across 125th Street? Is that the famous street?
It was
I didn't know why they talked
it was
about it, but
yeah, it was across 110th Street.
oh,
And
110. That's right. You're right. I messed up on
and
Bobby Womack's song.
exactly. But he was singing
Yeah.
about my neighborhood, so I know it quite well. But no, Harlem had a rich tradition of Black bookstores, and that doesn't exist anymore. And it's a loss, not just to the community of Harlem, but it's a loss. It's a cultural loss. And if I leave you with one thing, we tend to support businesses that their primary goal is to extract as much of our wealth as possible and give
Yes.
nothing back. And one
Right.
business that does that I boycott and I try to help people understand is killing, gutting, ripping us apart in terms of our ability to advocate and promote and sell books and profit from those businesses. And that's Amazon. And if you go to my website, you'll see me periodically mention, and in fact, the reason I had this book relatively close was because Amazon today is selling this book for $35. The list price is $19.95. Why are they doing that? Because they are price gouging. If they get a clue, if their algorithm determines that this book is hard to get because Third World Press isn't open during the pandemic, and this book was scarce. They just got a new reprint from Black Classic Press. I bought the book from Lucina Books, a big distributor of books like this, and I can sell this at the retail price of $19.95. If this book was scarce, I wouldn't raise the price 50%, but Amazon will do it every single time. And there are countless instances of them doing that. And then if the book is really popular and easily to get, like Michelle Obama's book, Amazon was discounted 70%.
And other stores cannot compete with that. They just cannot compete.
Right.
And that's why I do try to tell people, I don't buy everything on Amazon. A lot of people just go to Amazon for everything. Amazon is a monopoly. It will become more and more of a monopoly the more people don't shop other places. And pretty soon we'll have two places to shop, Amazon and Walmart, and we don't want that. So we have to support independent small businesses, booksellers, any kind of small business. And I don't want to encroach on our next guest time. I just really loved having you on. And we'll have you back again in a few months so we can talk some more.